Nice one, Kosha. Good one, good one. Okay, the correct, I'll answer you in a moment. The correct way of pronouncing my surname is Baden. Can you all say that? Baden? Yeah, can you all say it? Baden. Yeah. Powell. Powell. That's right. Does that answer your question? Yes. Okay. Powell. 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 Yes, just one last. Yes. You'll have to speak up. I'm deaf.
I have a final question. I think while scouting is such a great movement for bringing people together, we still have the problem all over the world with gender segregation and boys and girls not being allowed in the same spaces. So how do you think that we as an organization should move forward to make sure that boys and girls get equal opportunity to scout together?
Absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more. I'll tell you a funny story about that, then I must wrap it up. Yeah, it's not a problem. Oh, they can wait for a while. Well, to answer your question, I remember being summoned by the then chief guide for Australia. Guides Australia Chief Commissioner, that's what she's called. And her husband happened to be a cabinet minister in the Australian government at the time. Anyway, she bailed me up at a dinner, after a dinner. And she said, Michael, why are you letting girls into the scout movement? It's all your fault. And I said, poor Michael, no, really that's not quite the case. We have a thing called Equal Opportunities Act that had just been passed by the then Australian government. And I reminded her that her husband was a part of the Equal Opportunities Act. She didn't say anymore, I wonder why. But seriously, it has done the scout movement in Australia and Britain and others, Canada I believe, no harm at all. The first thing that it did do in Australia that I noticed was the boys' shoes became very clean all of a sudden. I wonder why. And they actually looked like Boy Scouts rather than just Scouts. So the short answer to your question is, yes, I think it has had its benefits. It's of interest to note that of all those going to Government House in Melbourne, who receive their Queen's Scout Awards from the governor, I'm making girls, would you believe? I wonder why. I have not answered the question.
You are our treasure of the Scout movement for today. Because you represent your grandfather to all of us. And we so appreciate you being here with us and telling some of your personal family stories and the video and everything else that you are representing here with us at the World Jamboree. And we really appreciate you and Joan being here. Joan's in the corner over there.
Thanks, Rachel. As we say in the classics, NAP. What does NAP mean? Nobody? Well, there's obviously nobody from Australia here. It means not a problem. Oh, there's one over there. There's one over there. You've heard the phrase, not a problem, of course. Okay. Yes, well, I could stand here all day telling you stories of what we used to do as children. For example, my older brother and my small sister, we had a very big garden in England, nice big front garden with 2 tennis courts on it, and then with roses, a typical English garden. And then behind that, we used to have this enormous great big vegetable patch. which a chap called Brampton. Brampton was a good old countryman from way back, and he used to look after the veggies and all that sort of stuff. And down at the bottom of that, we had a little wooded area where my brother and I, and sometimes with a few odd friends, used to pitch our tents. Nothing like what you've got around here, not quite anyway. And we used to pitch our tents there. And one thing I can remember vividly, we would decide to go down there, and we would pitch our tent. We would not only do that, but we would cook over an open fire. Now, who, for goodness sake, cooks over an open fire these days?
Boy Scouts.
And then we discovered it was a bit pointless sort of putting the fire out and then having to restart the fire the following day to cook our breakfast. So we discovered that the best way of keeping a fire alive was actually to use peat or little bits of my parents, my father's beautiful green tennis court. And we would go along with our sheath knives or whatever, and we would dig up a little bit of tennis court. Amazing, Dad did actually disapprove because it meant that he had less tennis court to mow. And we would dig that up, and my brother and I would pack up the fire, and we would pack it tightly with this, what we liked, which we pretended was peat. And we packed this grass around there, and sure enough, the following day, well, this is innovation for you. And the following day, we would lift the pieces of grass off, get our pots and pans out, and we would make a cup of tea, as all good Englishmen should, and we would have a lovely breakfast or whatever. We even were able to cook porridge, would you believe? Yeah. So it was quite interesting. What followed from that, we had a school cadet corps school, and we went off on one of these hike things, just a group of us, and the boss gave us to give him his correct title, gave us a specific area to cover, route to cover, and all we had on us was basically the clothes that we stood up in, 24-hour rations, a compass, a prismatic compass. You don't have prismatic compasses here, I don't think, but in England we're so forward thinking, we've got these things there, and that's all we had. And off we went. And I teamed up with my cousin Robin, Betty Clay's son. And Robin and I said, okay, we'll go and do our thing. And the CO said to us very bravely, now, everybody, you're to be back here by 6 o'clock, otherwise no dinner, you can cook your own. So guess what? Robin and I made sure that we were back by 6 o'clock. And we were the only ones of the whole cadet corps to do that. The point that I'm making is that it's not that we were so well educated or anything, it's just that our scout training, our natural scout training, led us to do the obvious. The obvious, and that's precisely what we did. And the funny thing, the swing that comes after all this, is that the CO said to me a year later, I might at this time left school, the school had kicked me out, and they had enough of young me anyway, and it was time for him to go. Seriously, it was time for me to leave and go and earn a living for my life. And off I went to make aeroplanes that fly, the real things. And anyway, he rang me up one day and he said, Michael, I'd like you to come back, please. We're having another army week. Would you come back, please, and teach the young people in the cadet corps how to camp? What led to this was that where we camped, he asked me where we'd stopped that night. And I said, well, that's easy, sir. And we got out an ordnance survey map, which is a very detailed map of the area we'd been in. The British Army used these things. And he said, show me where you actually stayed last night. So I showed him the exact pinpoint of where we were. He said, I don't believe you. I said, well, it's true, sir. He said, get in the car, we'll go there now. So I got into his Jag, and off we went to Jaguar in short terms. And off we went, and a few minutes later we arrived at the campsite. He said, now Michael, show me exactly where we were camped. I said, well, sir, I hate to tell you, but you're actually standing on the site we were. Would you mind moving your car, please? So he moved his car back a few feet, and he said, I still don't believe you. So I said, well, that's easy enough, sir. So I drew out my sheath knife, which we used to carry in those days. We don't carry sheath knives these days. Nobody knows what a sheath knife is anyway in England now. Anyway, and I just made a slight incision in the ground, picked up a bit of turf that we put there, and there he saw the embers of the fire that we had lit to cook our breakfast the following day. You have got to come back and teach this to the other lads who have not ever had this opportunity. And I did. That's what scouting does. And that is our responsibility to the young chargers in our care. Does that make sense? Yes. To go on with their belief in what they are doing. I have visited, I have presented so many Queen Scout awards. I've lost count. Grey Wolf Awards for Little Cubs. The Australian Medal to Australian Scouts have earned it. I've done so many, even in England, would you believe? They don't let me rest there either. Maybe I wanted up in Northamptonshire. What for? To present JoJo with such and such. So it's played a very big role in my life, very much so. I'm looking back, I would never ever change it for anything in all the tea in China. Because it was interesting, let me tell you a true story. Just 2 days ago, right on the hill up there somewhere, they invited Joe and I to attend a gathering, a luncheon for all bronze wolf holders and VP award, VP fellows. And we went up there, and thankfully Joe and I were driven up there, which I was rather pleased about. To walk would have taken us at least 2 hours to get there, but anyway we got up there, and Wayne Perry looked at me and said, oh, you made it all right. I said, yes, Wayne, just made it. And the numbers of people that I knew there was just staggering. You know, I met so-and-so from Hong Kong, for example. I met Jimmy Blacksmith from wherever. And I just kept bumping into friends that I know so well. Coming out of the dining hall just over there, for example, who did I bump into? The current chief executive of the Scouts of Hong Kong, who I only saw last year when I attended the Asia Pacific Region Conference. There's a joke about that too. I'm boring you to tears, I'm sure. But what was interesting, I got this email from Mr. Alexander Wong, QC. They still have QCs there, in spite of what's happening to the north of them. And Alex wrote to me and said, Michael, this is what I want you to do. Would you please do this? I said, yes, Alex, I'll come over. And I met the chief executive, the then new chief executive of the World Scouts of Hong Kong. And would you believe, coming out of dinner breakfast yesterday, who did I meet? Exactly. So this is the wonderful thing that Scouting does do. I also met the ambassador in Bangkok for, I think, Argentina. I've met him 2 years earlier, and we just didn't recognise each other at first. And said, oh, son, what are you doing here? And he said, Michael, what are you doing here? I said, I'm here the same reason that you are. But the point that I'm driving at is that it matters where you are in society. Scouting is probably the greatest leveller of all. I hope it's a long-winded way of answering your question, isn't it?